All right, it's Friday, May 10th. This is an end of the day, an end of the week SPY recap. And today on the daily chart, we end up with a two up kind of red bar that gapped up above the previous day's high. When you had that green bar from yesterday, you expected that high to be tested. We gapped up there. We actually reached a target that was in play on the weekly chart. We were very just short of this next target as we were heading up all week. So you kind of expected, to hit that after yesterday, and you kind of gapped up, but immediately failed and kind of came down for the rest of the day. Didn't really cross the midpoint of the prior bar, but it's definitely a red bar that, to end the week that could follow through a little bit lower starting next week, and we'll see if it does that lead to possible broadening action below this Thursday's low here, which would be the next target. This particular day that had a two down day didn't hit its target and immediately moved up right on the gap lower. If we head down, we'll see, if we hit this target. If not, it can present more exciting trades to the upside. Obviously, we've been gapping up a lot in the last few weeks or a few days, really. There's a gap up here, a gap up here, a gap up. Pause. There was another gap up. Today was a gap up. So looking at the 15-minute chart, not surprising that you're at a little bit of short-term exhaustion risk. If you're going to play the SPY outright on this gap up, all price wanted to do on the first move of the day is take out that pre-market high and then immediately fail. The pre-market range was between the blue lines. And, if you took this trade thinking you're going to get momentum, continuation, even though you've already hit a weekly target and even though you're gapping up at short-term exhaustion risk, you had to take a small loss at the midpoint of the first bar. Actually, if you really, according to the way I look at the 15-minute chart, once I saw it come to the halfway point of that bar pretty immediately after taking out those pre-market highs, I was pretty comfortable that it was going to at least take out that low and see what happened from there. So you could have, taken an aggressive short trade at the midpoint of that bar, expecting this low and this little pivot to be taken out. At that point, it came all the way down to exactly where you'd expect it to, the liquidity below the pre-market lows, which was this blue line. At that point, it just paused for the rest of the day. So, you're still above the halfway point of the prior day, so you're not really thinking you're going to get a major, failure bar, but this was actually not a bad trade to the sell side. For me, when I saw that gap up, I was a little cautious, but I decided to trade NVIDIA, and I shot a video on that because that had a two up kind of day going. That wasn't necessarily an exhaustion risk. That actually had potential to start hitting these highs. So I traded here, but knowing how nimble the environment was, I actually exited, if I bought it at this upper blue line, I exited right here at this lower blue line quickly, and then watched it fall for the rest of the day. And actually, I reversed to the short side on a few stocks, including Coinbase. So, I looked for a stock that was heading lower as opposed to, trading puts on the SPY, and I saw Coinbase was a good one, for example, that took out on bar 3 its low and then worked down towards targets on that chart that was in play down here and a little below that. So it was a nice reversal trade from the buy side, and you were able to do pretty well on the sell side today. So anyway, the SPY ends up kind of closing with a red bar that you expect, I guess, to kind of test a little lower to start, but we'll see where the week goes. We close with a pretty strong green week, so on the other hand, you're kind of expecting that high to be tested. So even if we come down, let's see if we get through the midpoint of that bar. If we kind of hold in that midpoint area and start up, that could be good continuity back to the upside. The only way this whole thing fails is if eventually we get kind of either we gap up and then come through the midpoint of that bar, or we get a two down bar, and that would be a lot lower. But it's possible, if we get a two down weekly bar, maybe you get a little deeper pullback. But the weekly chart's still up, the monthly chart's still green. We're inside of the previous month. We've gone up a lot. So, there's definitely room for a little bit of, broadening action on the daily chart, meaning, a little higher highs and lower lows and choppiness as we work our way higher. I still think we're heading to those highs, but we, at any time you can get a little two down bar, and you can play that, and we'll see if that happens on Monday. And then you can kind of see if Tuesday becomes turnaround Tuesday to the upside, or does Tuesday Tuesday go lower, and then maybe the rest of the week, can go lower if the first 2 days, unfold to the downside in a strong way. But if not, then any pullbacks, you're getting ready to buy. Again, there was no actionable signal today, the upside. It was more continuation, and just not surprising that this type of move at the end of the week would not really have the momentum to the upside. And as soon as you saw it coming back to the midpoint of the first bar, to me, it was, and looking at a lot of stocks out there, I think there was an opportunity to, take a short trade in the morning, and that's it presented itself very nicely here if you did it on the SPY or on some other stock. So we'll see where things go next week. Again, no real, the actionable signal to the downside here is not really with the continuity of the weekly and monthly chart. So you're still kind of waiting for days like this where you get that 2 down failure. That became a great trade for a couple of days to the upside. Any kind of move down that doesn't reach a target, it's exciting to get back up, and we'll see if actionable signals develop on the daily chart. For now, it's just you got to kind of go day by day and kind of see what you expect the next, day's high or low to be tested, and to see how opening price kind of relates to that pre-market range in order to determine if there's like a short-term trade in there. So today it was more to the sell side, even in an overall uptrend. But the best trades are still going to be failures to the downside that get back in line with the big trend. So we'll see what develops going into next week.